One time I was going to go to the restroom, but then all of a sudden, a lockdown started. I thought it was a practice drill, so we got up and went to the corner, the most life-threatening spot. And then we were giggling and joking about a cooter out there. But I was not talking, or laughing, or giggling. But then I realized something. We were not supposed to have a practice lockdown drill today, so now I was frightened and a little scared. And then all of a sudden I heard something kind of like running in the hallway, so we were scared for a little bit. But then I heard shouting in the hallway, so that got us even more scared. I thought I would die. Some of the girls were crying, while I was speechless. Even my teacher was scared, and he thought I gotta save my class, so he got up and got the bat that was near the teacher's seat, and was prepared for whoever was out there. I was starting to calm down as the minutes went by. The other students were still scared, huddled in the corner, while I thought my life and the other lives would be saved. We heard more footsteps and the kids screamed slightly. The teacher told them to quiet down. I was just horrified. Now I thought I would die. The students were crying much more. And then I heard screaming that sounded like a student in the hallways. Now I started to cry a little along with the other students. The teacher's face had no color, not even white. That's how scared he was. Not gonna lie, that was kinda funny. Ha ha ha. Anyways, then we heard pounding on the door. The students screamed, and then the teacher opened the closet for the students to go in. We got in the closet while the teacher stayed where he was. The students were still crying in the closet, but I was trying to tell them to quiet down and calm down, but they would not listen. So I just gave up and just hid with the students in the closet in our classroom. And then we heard louder pounding along with a voice that did not sound like a teacher, was not a student for sure, and it had a voice I never heard before. So the students shrieked again. And then it just repeated the voice, the pounding, the everything. But then our worst nightmares came true. The door blasted open. We were so scared that we would get hurt. We heard the teacher scream and beat the intruder up, kinda like a school bully. The girls were screaming so loud my ears were ringing. I've never been this scared in my life, along with the other classmates. But then all of a sudden I heard a thud like an end shot, and my teacher was screaming in pain. And then the intruder walked over to the closet door and just stood there. We were all crying, and then the doorknob started rattling. And then we screamed and huddled in the corner, but the door was locked because if you shut it, unless you have a key, it's always locked. So the cooter was rattling the doorknob and screaming. And then all of a sudden a classmate passed out. The air smelled like blood and gunpowder. I was texting my mom of what was happening. She was scared for me, and I was scared. I wouldn't make it out alive along with the other classmates. And then another student passed out. And then another student passed out. We were so scared, including me. And then our very, very worst nightmare, the Kuta Uta, came in. We screamed so loud, but our dream came true. During the Kuto situation, the cops came. We felt safe. The police said, "Put your hands around your back." To the cooter, one of the students said, "Are we safe now?" That gave the cooter an idea. Because he said, "Nitrogen monoxide, you're not come over here." We shrieked. But then the cops snotted the cooter. My ears were ringing. But finally we were safe and the lockdown was over. We got an early release because of the Chima and Blood. Me and my mom were watching the news. And it was traumatizing.